I'll go ahead and get started then. So I'm going to talk about what it was like making the Fallout games for like a decade of my life. Because yeah, if you don't know who I am, I'm Nate Purkeypile, and I was at Bethesda for 14 years. And I was there from Fallout 3 all the way through. I worked about a year on Starfield, and I was lead artist on 76. So I picked Sutton and Flatwoods to be on the map myself, which is kind of cool. So seeing all the cosplay and everything has been amazing. This event.
Lighthouse guy.
Yes. I had to get in an argument with Emil about that. Like, that's not real. This is dumb. Why there's no water? No, it's real.
Like I was there.
Yeah. You did not believe me. So yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about why I made Fallout games and how I used to be a fan, talk about each game, and at the end there'll be a little sneak peek at what I'm up to. So I was a Fallout fan. Yeah, we're going to stop recording for that. So I was a Fallout fan way back in the 90s and played the original games a whole ton. I was really big into like turn-based games like XCOM and Fallout. Played it a ton. Was always trying to like convince my friends to play this game. You know, Fallout was a great game and kind of popular back then, but nothing like it is now, obviously. And I was such a Fallout nerd back then that my high school projects for junior and senior year were both on nuclear weapons.
Oh, wow.
One was just on the history. It's like, yeah, that makes sense. There's a lot of history and stuff. But then I was like, well, what can I do for the other one? And it was purely on the physics of nuclear explosions and like the radiation and like how all the oxygen gets sucked away and then everything gets pulled back with the explosion. It was like super in-depth, nerdy thing. But
Like,
yeah, I thought it was
you
cool.
gotta watch.
Oh, I'm like on all the watch lists at this point. Like, what is like this blowing up? Survivalist things. You gotta it's research.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's what it is.
And I had been making games a whole bunch ever since I was like in grade school, back before we had color on computers even. And I was big into modding too. So I did a bunch of stuff for like Doom and Half-Life. I worked on this thing called Action Half-Life, where it's kind of like a John Woo movie, diving around. And I ran my own mod also at the same time called Desert Crisis, which despite the name has very little to do with any crises in the desert. You're just like doing backflips and shooting people and throwing sledgehammers. It was ridiculous, but it was a lot of fun. And then I ended up going to college for games, and I briefly went to the Academy of Art, but it was like a little too fine arts focused for me because I had like all these like drawing and sculpting classes and then like one Photoshop class. So I was like, to be frank, like a shitty student at that college because I just spent all my time making mods. Yeah, I probably should have been drawing a little more. So I quit and worked on my mods for about a year, and then I went to this other school, DigiPen, which is way more focused on just games. That was a much better fit for me. And back in those days, had to go to all the cool LAN parties with my styling, out-of-date meme shirt there, lugging the CRT monitors around.
Oh,
Like, I don't even know how to like, carrying the tower. No, I had like this strap that went around the whole tower so I could carry it with me.
No tower there.
Land parties.
Yeah, I drove all the way from Washington to Texas just for QuakeCon.
oh God.
Nerd.
Yep.
That's awesome.
But I managed to actually get a job after college. Yeah, somebody put this on my Moby Games profile, and it's like, where did you even get this picture? I had no idea. So I had like green hair at the time. But yeah, I applied to like literally every game company that existed at the time. And it's like hundreds of applications, and only 2 people said yes. It was Ubisoft up in Canada and Terminal Reality in Texas. And Canada is too cold for me, so I went to Texas. And this is like a roundabout way of how I ended up at Bethesda, because a lot of the people there came from Terminal Reality. It was like this incubator for the games industry, because like our games were okay, but everybody kind of left eventually, and they ended up working on like Call of Duty and the Halo games and pretty much everything. And that was my first weird Hollywood release party that I went to, because we had the Blood Rain party. It was like hosted by MTV. They had like this Headbangers Ball thing. So this band Shadows Fall played. I have like a DVD of it somewhere because my brother like recorded it. It was weird. And that Blood Rain there in the center is actually like the stunt double for the Blood Rain in the the horrible, horrible Blood Rain movie.
Yeah, I could take away both for that.
Yeah, I know. God, so needless to say, I was very happy when Fallout came out, and that's like actually good. Because back then, that's not how video game adaptations were. They were terrible.
They were.
Yes.
And this is another random tidbit from when I was in Terminal Reality. Like in 22 years in games, the only game I ever worked on that got canceled is the one that is in Grandma's Boy. Because it was going to be a real game. And they're like, oh, we got this great marketing idea, but then the game like fell apart. But it still lives on in that super weird way. Some people were like, wait, you worked on the game at Grandma's Boy? That's real? Like, we made a weird fake fighting game for it, but Demonic was real.
Right.
So, yeah, but it got canceled. So then I went to work on the Metroid Prime games at Retro Studios because I applied to Bethesda at the same time. But like they were really slow at hiring at the time, and I was like, whatever, I'm just gonna go to Retro. And some of the guys I went to college with, who you might know, like Ilya Nazarov, who ended up being like a concept artist on Fallout 4, he was there. So working there is like the complete opposite of Bethesda, though, because like in Bethesda games, you're doing this massive open world and have to do so much, but the Retro Studio games, it's like this very linear, bespoke thing. So I would get an entire month on a single room, and you're like modeling every single crack by hand. Nothing is reused whatsoever. So yeah, I learned that I don't like working that way because it gets really boring, staring at like one room for an entire month. And that was a really weird time to be in games because this isn't an actual picture from the event. I couldn't find one, but the mayor of Austin at City Hall threw a party for the game, all the game developers in the area, and there was a DJ dressed as Spider-Man. And I was like, the fuck is even happening?
The Spider-Man thing, the pizza thing from PS2 Spider-Man game.
But then I did end up quitting and applied again to Bethesda to go work on Fallout 3 because at that point, they're working on Fallout and I love Fallout. So it's like, oh man, I'm going to try again. Todd didn't even make me like fly out again. It's like, oh, Purkeypile, I remember your name. Yeah, you don't have to come out again. I just had to do like a art test. Yeah, you can blame the Germans who wanted to like Americanize
Really?
it.
I always thought that was like a attack.
I know.
It is ridiculous,
I still
yeah.
remember like sometimes somebody asked you that on social or something. You're like, yeah, no, it's
Yeah, I mean, it's like a crop of birch trees or something. Like, now it sounds super American. Purkeypile. Like, okay, good job, guys.
Sounds like a YouTuber.
Yeah, so I was super happy to work on Fallout, and we had a really tight-knit team back then. Like, even compared to most studios at the time, like, we were pretty small. It was like 65 of us, and we all just worked in the basement at that point. So you, like, lose track of what time of day it is, and the team had a lot of freedom to do whatever you want, though. So I've worked on a lot of different things on Fallout 3. Like, I did Little Lamplight, Paradise Falls, Tenpenny Tower, Underworld, did parts of Rivet City. Most of it was done by a Raphael artist, but I helped out. And then I did a bunch of the kits for level designers because I had been doing kits for a long time. That's all the pieces that fit together to build the levels, and then did a ton of the lighting. But, I like to think that my true legacy of Fallout 3 is the fuck you door. Yeah, so I initially did that graffiti for like there's this one vault where everybody like overthrew the overseer and like did all this graffiti and stuff, and so I put that in, assumed like Emma would get mad at me and cut it. He didn't, but then also there was these 3 satellite towers, but someone screwed up on the schedule and they're like, whoops, we only scheduled 2, but the exteriors were already there. And well, it looks nice with 3 and we don't want to delete it. So I think it was Justin Schramm like took my graffiti then and like, we're just gonna put it on this door. And so who knows how many people have opened up this door and just, what the hell?
Actually, here is a sentry bot.
Yeah. And TF2 was really big at the studio at the time. We did this thing called the Studio Rumble, where it was this tournament between all the different game studios around the world. And I even threw this ridiculous Team Fortress party. That's all of those are developers there. You see like Phil and Joel and everybody all dressed up. And I even made a Girardi for the party. And if you don't know what Girardi is jars of pee that the sniper throws. That is not, in fact, pee. I think it was like apple juice and vodka or
Oh,
something.
thank God.
How long did it take you to collect?
I had to make it extra authentic. And another one of the weird things that I did around the times I played TF2 for charity, and that is in fact the guy who sang that song Chocolate Rain was in there for some reason. And, Notch, who made Minecraft, and Freddie Wong, who did like the rocket jump things, and then there's Robin Walker, who made Team Fortress. And I'd known him since like the Half-Life mod days, way back then. But the hilarious thing is like he made Team Fortress, right? So he had these cheats. And so after we do the fight and like the regular rounds are over, he just turns on his cheat and starts flying through the air, shooting this machine gun rocket launcher, just murdering everybody. And he's like, ah! Like, man, I wish I had that rocket launcher. And then we did the Fallout 3 DLC, and I was the lead artist on the pit. And I built like the blast furnace and stuff like that. I'm sorry about the collecting ingots quest. That is not my fault. I just made the art. And I did like that wire sculpture there of the guy, and it was inspired by this really cool piece that I had seen at Burning Man that I really liked. And then did Point Lookout. And I'm really happy with how that one turned out. Obviously, I have like a whole forest horror vibe thing going in the stuff that I do. And we did those all really fast. It was like 2 months for the pit, 4 months for Point Lookout. So we had no code support though. So one of the things that we had to do was, if you don't know, in Point Lookout, the mansion explodes at one point. But we had no code support for turning on and off anything in the distance. Like that just wasn't a thing. It's all just one big piece, so it can render really fast. But there was the megaton explosion. So there's the idea of distant explosions. So this is like the most counterintuitive thing we wanted, because can't have the mansion stay there forever, right? So technically speaking, the mansion is an explosion, like behind the scenes, but it's like this mansion that's slowly shrinking because it can't exist forever because it's an explosion and they're not supposed to. But then we turn on another one and it's just slowly shrinking. So, but then after it explodes, we turn off the explosion. It's the weirdest thing, but that's the kind of things we had to do because not that many of us, and the coders are all getting ready for Skyrim. So, hey, we got it. And I was in a metal band back then with some of the guys on the team. There's like Jang Joon, who was the animator, Nate McDyer was my producer, Dane Olds on the drum. We were kind of terrible. It was fun.
But it was fun.
Yeah.
That's what matters.
Then I worked on a game some of you might have heard of, Skyrim. I hear a couple people might have played it or something. Yeah. The fridge one, yeah. And so I did a bunch of the kits in that one also, like the cave kits and the Ratway and the Imperial Forts, and lit most of the game. And we snuck the Black Reach in because that's the way we rolled back then. Like it wasn't on the schedule at all, but I was like ahead on time, and me and Darl and Joel wanted to do it. So we're just like, we're going to make this crazy place. And then like Todd and Emily like, what the hell is this thing? But I think it has like a really memorable vista. It was inspired by diving, honestly, because I wanted like sort of an underwater feel to it. Yeah, that's definitely. And this is a picture of the team when we went to E3 before Skyrim came out. Got like the whole thing plastered on the Fig Hotel back there, and we had no idea that it was going to be this big thing. That like, it's not a secret at this point that like Skyrim kind of sucked for a long time working on it. Like it barely worked, and it didn't really come through together until the very, very end. So then to see it become this huge thing that people still play, and we're just innocent kids back then. Like, hey, we're just making video games. And the team was a little bit bigger at that point, but still not that big. It was like 110 people or something. Because it was back before we had like the 4 studios that existed later. And I mentioned kits is one of the things I like spent a whole bunch of time on there, and I did that all the way from Terminal Reality and Fallout 4, and I'd like to think we made them like more and more organic over time. These things can have like arbitrary walls, and we have all the destruction to go through wherever. I'm happy with how that feels compared to if you look at like Oblivion dungeons and stuff. You're like, oh, I've literally been in this exact room like 50 times. Yeah, I mean it's more work for sure for everybody, but I think that's an important part of playing these games, is to like be surprised all the time. So yeah. And speaking of tight-knit team that hung out all the time, I threw a beer fest for a decade, which was sort of this miniature game dev convention where we even had people flying like from Canada, and Epic had a crew that came up every year from North Carolina. And it was a beer drinking competition designed by game designers. So we even had like a game jam beforehand, and we had referees with megaphones.
Right? The difference, right?
Yeah, it was a fun time. And then I went to Burning Man again, this time with East Vaughn, the art director on Fallout 4, and Yen, who is a UI artist, and my wife. So you might recognize this Easter egg that my friend Ilya Nazarov drew, and that is in fact my wife, me, East Vaughn, and Yen at Burning Man.
Nice.
But it's not Burning Man, it's Nuke the Man. It's completely different.
Nice.
Don't tell the lawyers.
I mean, that's not pretty.
No, it was a fun nod, so. And Ilya could just draw basically whatever they wanted on those covers, so he was having some fun with it. And because I did Little Lamplight, I decided to do this thing called lamplighting at Burning Man, where you have to carry around all these lanterns at night, and someone puts them up on like these hooks to like light up the city at night. And I was like, oh, lamplighting, that would be cool. Also sucks carrying like that many lanterns and like walking around the entire city. It's like torture. And I even got to play some arcade games in the desert. And that was hilarious because you don't expect to get like an ice cold beer and playing arcade games. Because the way it worked is it was like a Smash Brothers thing. You're supposed to chug your beer and then you can play. But I had this picture, I couldn't find it, but of East Vaughn handing me the beer. He's like, it's too cold, it's too cold. And then I got to cross something off my bucket list that I never thought I would get to do, which was fight in the Thunderdome. So that's in fact East Vaughn and me in the Thunderdome. So some people are like, oh, how do you become a lead artist on a Fallout game? You fight the previous one in the Thunderdome.
There you go. So I was going to ask who won it.
I think depends on who you ask. You just kind of beat the shit out of each other with foam bats. Everyone's cheering up on the dome. It was amazing. So then I moved on to Fallout 4. And for a while, it was like just me and East Vaughn. Like I moved off Skyrim earlier than most people. Started working on Diamond City super early. We overhauled the way lighting worked entirely, which was really cool because the short version is everything in Fallout 3 and Skyrim. You could only put like a handful of lights in a room before it would just completely break. Like things go black. But in Fallout 4, you can put like hundreds of lights. So you might know this like power armor shot. That is hundreds of lights along the power armor to get like all the highlights just perfect for the shot. And it's obviously like way more work to do that, and all the light gets bounced by hand. It's not doing it automatically, but it's nice to have that control. And after being constrained to like 5 or 6 lights in a room, I was like, let's go crazy.
Yeah, but that shot is iconic.
Yeah, it's awesome still seeing it around and like mouse pads and shirts and everything, posters. Super happy. So yeah, I mentioned I worked on Diamond City. That's the thing that I probably spent the most time on the game because it was this massively important thing. And I like refined the layout and everything about that vista is like completely on purpose with the way the power lines are like heading towards the center. And I'm kind of lucky that I wasn't busted by some friends that I had though. Because I did this trip to Boston. I was like hanging out with friends and then like, oh, and then we're going to go check out Fenway Park. And like, if you like baseball, that's cool. But like, if you know me, like, I don't care at all. So they probably should have suspected something, especially when I'm like taking hundreds of pictures.
Yeah.
And you're not watching the game.
Anytime you're on like a research trip as an artist, people probably think you're absolutely crazy. Like, why are you taking pictures of the floor and shit?
The trash
I do that literally, so nobody asks questions.
Yeah,
They
the Greenbrier
crazy.
probably should have gotten something for like, why, are you gonna like put a bomb in the Greenbrier trash cans? What's going on?
Like they either think you're crazy or you're up to espionage. Just ask a Bohemian interactive with the Greek government.
And don't tell them like, oh, I'm gonna, do it like blown up later.
Yeah.
Like what?
That's
So then there was all the Fallout 4 kits that I did, like the building kit, which is used for buildings of all kinds. You can mix and match all the architecture styles, punch through holes and whatnot. And we had all these absurd holiday parties at the time where they rented out like the entire building museum down in DC with like 200-foot tall pillars and stuff. There was this weird thing once where there was this wall with hands holding drinks. And there was people back there. I was like, this is like some Bond villain thing. And I got to meet Shinji Mikami and had dinner with him. And for those that don't know, he's like the director of Resident Evil 4. And that is the game I've probably replayed the most. I've played like every different version that's come out, even like both VR versions. So that was super cool. And Linda Carter is, Robert Altman's wife, and she would always be at the holiday parties and, big Hollywood star and everything. But she was super friendly to everybody and always take pictures and hang out with everybody.
So who got her to be Magnolia?
I mean, we just wanted to. Oh, she was did a few roles too, because I think she did some stuff in Oblivion too. Because it's Linda Carter is the CEO's wife. Let's just bring her in and do some stuff.
So that was
she's
it. Was
been a
just
singer for a long time
Yeah.
too, so got her to do a few tracks and stuff. And then I met John Carmack too, because I was huge into Doom and Quake back in the day, like every nerd in the '90s, and did Concord Museum around that time. And if you think you're sick of Preston. that was one of the first quests, right? So we had to do meeting after meeting to make it just right. God, I'm so sick of this guy.
Hey, at least the lighting looks really good.
Yeah,
Thank you.
exactly.
And it was the first test bed for that building kit of can we just punch holes through wherever and get all that destruction and the floors kind of bending and stuff. Yeah. And then I did all the stuff for the railroad, working with Ferret, rest in peace. He was a great guy. Really happy with how that turned out with the railroad headquarters and Old North Church. And we would go to GDC as a team sometime. And that was us meeting the Rocket League guys. And the guy there in the middle, Rick Vicens, who's one of the animators at Bethesda, he has, I swear, 2,000 hours in Rocket League or something. GDC is always a blast because it's nerds nerding out with each other. They're oh, I love Skyrim so much. I love Rocket League so much. And that picture on the right is this party that Valve threw where Glitch Mob played. It was a weird time. It's definitely not as crazy now, post-COVID and stuff. And Bethesda threw this E3 party that I thought was the most LA thing ever. It's a pool party, right? And so the pool takes up 80% of the space there. But nobody can go in the pool.
Yeah.
And there's all these security guards.
It does look great.
But some people on the team, had maybe a few too many drinks and they're fuck this. And I have this video of them jumping in the pool, 3 of them. And then security immediately comes and they get kicked out. But the party was almost over at that point anyway. So yeah, it was hilarious. And then we had the Fallout 4 release party, which was also the weirdest thing with Halle Berry and all these Hollywood stars and stuff. Very strange. And most of the people, I'm pretty sure, had no idea what the thing even was. They're just all these random Hollywood people. So there's a shot of me behind the scenes with all the Vault Boys that they brought in. And they had Block Party and Walk the Moon play for 2 songs each. I'm how much do you guys pay for this?
Wow, they brought them in.
Not worth it just for 2 songs.
Yeah. Just play your hits. It's fine.
Wow.
Whatever your job's on.
Yeah, exactly. And I mentioned that some of the people had no idea what this was. And one of the things that I overheard was some lady went to security and was you need to take that robot out. It's scaring my friend. And that's Mr. Handy. Yeah. Oh, the scary robot.
Yeah, it's the most
See where you are.
Is she seen a suit of power armor?
No.
That would have been way better.
Yeah. Been terrified and just ran. And Calvin Harris was the DJ for the party. So I have the weirdest story though, because there was the VIP area we could hang out in, right, which was up top, and that's where he played. But he only played for the first hour, and then because you couldn't really see him from down below. It was kind of backlit and stuff. So then after about an hour, he steps back, and this dude who looks basically almost exactly like him takes his position. And then he's just hanging out here with us, taking pictures. That is a. I thought it was only Saddam Hussein who has doppelgangers and stuff. Yeah, and he had these handlers, and one lady was going up, wanted to get her picture, but she tripped and was kind of hammered, and then he just turns to a security guy and goes like this, a little neck chopping motion, and then she gets escorted away. She's Calvin Harris.
Oh, no.
Oh.
I need him. No.
And then there is the Fallout cats that you might know. So I mentioned Ilya Nazaroff, and we were friends for a long time. So my cats, Boomer and Galen, are the cats that are in all the cat paintings.
Oh.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Galen passed away, but Boomer is still going strong. And it was cool to even see in the Fallout show that they used those.
I know. I was like,
Like, they could have used any random
I
thing in
was
the background.
making out
But
so bad.
it's great that they actually had that.
They were so into the details.
Yeah, the details are amazing.
Yeah.
They
So-
need more cats.
More cats.
More
Yeah.
cats.
So pick more cats, more cat
I mean,
pictures.
come on, cat videos.
Even more
there
cat
too,
pics.
right? Free more cat.
Yeah.
When are we getting more
Yes.
free cats?
Lots of cats.
Yes. They're very
They're
photogenic.
so cute.
And then you might recognize this painting of that's me.
That was so good.
No, there's a whole bunch of different developers. There's even one of like Ty Howard as Napoleon.
Yeah.
That cracked me up when I saw
I'm sure
that.
they did not want that in there.
I don't think it was like a huge fan of it. So then seeing it like dead center in the show,
Right?
the safe, I was like, they picked that one.
They did.
It says it just works.
They should have made it like you could like.
So then moved on to 76. Yeah.
Just like the most gorgeous lighting.
Thank you. Yeah, we overhauled the whole lighting system. I worked with Montreal on the lighting system so much. And
I am a big photo nerd in this game because of the lighting.
thanks. Even Art argued to get all this stuff where like light would filter through the trees
Yes.
and tint it and stuff. They're like, why do we need to do that?
The top.
That's ridiculous. No. I want
Pod rays?
Yes. Well, because they're God rays, you know,
But
but
it's
everybody's like, they're
not-
God rays. Yeah. I'm like, but Todd didn't do that, but it's okay.
That light tinting actually makes this so when you do the photography in there,
Uh-huh.
you can do that vignette with the little with
Yeah.
the rays coming through. I've done so many silhouette shots.
Yes.
through that. It's
You get like such amazing shots because of the lighting. So thank you.
We
As
have
an
endless
in-game
arguments
photographer.
about specific colors and everything. Weather is something that's never done.
Yeah.
You just have to ship it at some point. Because at one point, I remember East and Ilya and I got into this huge argument on Fallout 4 over the specific shade of blue for the sky and stuff. And he was like, no, I want it slightly more green. I'm like, this isn't Fallout 3 anymore.
And that was the big thing. I played Fallout
more
3
green
when he
filter.
started playing Fallout 4. I was like, that's not Fallout.
So yeah, I picked all the locations on the map and did a ton of research on it and everything. You got to pick all the monsters, which was super fun. I love that they agreed to all the cryptids and stuff.
Yes.
'Cause,
Yeah.
I thought they would say no. I thought it would be a great angle to have that sort of tilt to the game, like a little bit of a horror vibe, but also peaceful and inviting. You get into the nice, pretty forest, and then another one is I put the ticks in there
Oh, God.
Oh, you're the one that.
Yes.
because I got Lyme disease at one point, so I was like, I'm gonna kill these little assholes.
Like the worst
Ticks
ankle
and
biters.
I hate
Yeah.
those things.
Very reasonable crash out.
I hate those.
And you're
horrible.
Yeah, what was up with that?
Somebody trolled me and made Beta's restaurant or something and Sim Settlements 2
Mhm.
add-on that sold only cricket. They
Yum, yum.
hated cricket stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do Ohio too.
I had left before they did Ohio, so I've been gone for about 5 years now. So I basically stopped working on 76 with Wastelanders, and then I moved on to Starfield for a little bit. And you might remember this NoClip documentary that came out,
Yes.
and I had to do some interviews for that and stuff. But the documentary never actually said like where the game was or anything. But then as like a little sneaky thing, I put on my Mothman shirt. I like, had marketing handlers there and everything. Like but they
And
had
they
like
didn't
no
even
idea.
catch it?
I don't think they even knew much about the game. So I was like, and then obviously the internet's like, Mothman, it's West Virginia. Yeah. Spoilers.
That was so good on you for doing that.
I was messing with them, yeah. But I'm really happy with how varied and vibrant it ended up being because we had all that art from Fallout 4 to build on. So I was like, oh, let's build all this extra weird, unique stuff that we would never have time for. Because like making Fallout 4, you have to do some really boring stuff. Like somebody has to make the toilets and like forks and all this stuff. But I was like, oh, let's make like the Golden Palace and all these other, like the giant bucket excavation machine.
Oh, that's cool.
So I'm really happy that we were able to do that. And it's a really good way to build a game, honestly, because then you're building all these things that are interesting, not just reusing everything. Right.
Mhm.
And yeah, folklore monsters. Love how they turned out. Seeing the Mothman cultists around here and all the Mothmans has been great. And I organized the research trip that I took with the concept artists, which was like very meticulously planned because we didn't have a ton of time. So it was like down to the hour for every single stop we did. and tried to get thousands of photos on everything so we could have the game be like as authentic as possible. Got to eat lunch in Helvetia and stuff. So seeing that become like a hotbed of activity in the game has been really cool. Yeah, that's great to hear because it's kind of out there. It's not easy.
It is.
Like this is.
Well, I mean, their festival topped out at like 42 before us, before the game.
Mhm.
Yeah,
You can't even find a place to sleep.
but now they're like able to restore the buildings.
That's cool. And yeah, then we did E3 again, got the game back up on the Figueroa Hotel, and that picture on the right is when you would hang out there, because at E3 back then, all the game developers hung out at that hotel. And so you could just go and meet all of the people and hang out there, like hung out with Vince Apollo from Respawn and stuff. But we went to the after party afterwards, so I was really bummed to see Vince pass away. He was a super nice dude. And they did this vault experience. Like I still have some of those party hats and stuff in my display case. Gets the little ID card. That was really cool. But in my opinion, that's also kind of when E3 started to die because they started to do like the BE3 event. There are all these like E3 adjacent things. Everyone's like, well, why am I going to pay them money and just do my own thing? But it was a really cool event with all like the custom decorations and themed drinks and whatnot. It was really fun. And one of the random things I did for 76, because no one could tell me no because I was in charge, was I put in the instruments, which was initially a game jam because every year we would do like, you get a week and you could just do whatever you want. And none of that stuff actually ends up in the game mostly. Like they might pick one or two things. But yeah, instruments were never in Fallout 4. But I was the lead artist. So I was like, I'm going to chuck it in. I just put it in. And then somebody else hooked up like all the design stuff and the sounds and it became real. And then seeing some people have made real versions of those, that makes me happy. My dumb little game jam that I did with Ilya becoming a real thing is pretty cool. And the Greenbrier event that they threw was super cool. They had like hawks and axe throwing. It was pretty ridiculous. And it was like the first time the press got the hands on, so some people would like speed run in the game to try and get to the room that they were playing.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
So it was pretty cool. And they did all these random touches. They're like, oh, we're going to put Vault Tech stickers on all the soap and everything. They like pulled out all the stops. And then we got to have a party in the actual bunker, which was awesome. Like, it's hard to tell because, there's ceilings and it's not all concrete, but that's in the bunker that they actually held that. That was really cool. And I even got, like, the prototype Nuka-Cola rum bottle that they had because that was before they made the real ones, and it was just, like, a 3D printed one. And the bartender was, like, going to throw it away or something. I was like, can I have that?
Throw that away.
Yeah,
Food.
seriously. And then we did Wastelanders. Like the game had a little bit of a rocky launch, but I'm glad that they like stuck through with it, and really happy with how Wastelanders turned out. It brought NPCs back. Yeah,
Brought the game back.
yeah. And I did Crater because I'm the one that put in the Crash Space Station in the first place. Because I wanted it ever since like Fallout 3. I was like, you know what we should do for DLC? Crash Space Station. No, Crash Space Station. No. It's like, how would I build Crash Space
Well,
Station?
I'm in charge.
Yeah. Just like the instruments, like, I do what I want. But then it seemed like a great opportunity to build into a city because there wasn't also that much to do there before. So
Yeah.
it was cool to make it more meaningful. But I only had like 2 days to do it because everybody was busy doing other stuff. Like, well, I guess I'm building a city in 2 days. Versus like Diamond City was like 3 or 4 months. But I'd done a lot of cities at that point, so I kind of knew what I was doing and reused a bunch of stuff and got it done. And hanging out with the team was always super fun. We were still hanging out a bunch, but it was a much bigger team at that point because then you have Dallas and Austin and Montreal. So then I quit on April Fool's Day, which after 14 years kind of goes how you'd expect. Like, that's so funny, Nate. Wait, you're serious?
Oh my God.
And it wasn't totally on
Just
purpose.
wait till tomorrow and then you'll know it wasn't.
Yeah. And a lot of people ask me, like, why did I go indie then after making all those big games? And it's a great studio, and I really hope the Elder Scrolls goes well. But I felt like I had done my best Elder Scrolls, and I had already spent 10 years making Fallout games, and I had no idea when the next Fallout would even be. Like, if people ask me if I know, I have no idea. So I decided to go out on my own and do the complete opposite, because I was kind of sick of all the meetings too, with like 500 people, 4 studios. Everything has to go through a lot more layers of approvals. Not quite like the days where we just check Blackreach in and whatever. I mean, I had a little more leeway than most, but still, like 20 meetings, even when you're not the lead, is a lot because I was on Starfield at that point and I still had a ton. So I quit and made another game with folklore monsters. Yeah. She did drawings for this game actually. Yeah. So it's another big open world, and you have your bow and arrow and hunt. You can like shoot Sasquatch in the face with an arrow. And it's a heavy metal soundtrack. And I would not recommend doing a giant open world game for your first solo game. But at that point, I was like, I've made like
But he's like, doing
six of those. So I was more worried about like design and code and stuff like that. But I was like, I can make a crap ton of art really fast, so I'm not worried about that part. And there you can see one of Shia's drawings.
Under that, yeah.
Yeah.
I called it reverse concept art because I did all the monsters and then sent him all the pictures. Like, draw this. I can do a whole ass video game, but I can't draw. So you draw.
She draws like
Yeah. But it's been so great to see 76 thrive and like this event happen and stuff like that, and the show giving it even more. But it's like a super different life now, and versus being at a giant company now owned by Microsoft. Like, here's me manning this booth at this thing called Day of the Devs near GDC, and like I have to stand there the whole time because it's just me.
Where's your employees? You're looking.
Yeah, just Perky Games. That's why I called it that.
Just for
Yep. And then I got this tattoo you can see here of like all the games that I've shipped in 22 years. I've been making games professionally. And I did one tiny one after that, though. Spent like a month making this because after I made this big, scary open world horror game, I was like, I'm going to make this game where everything's made out of Play-Doh that I scan with my phone, and I'm going to make all the sounds with my mouth and just do the dumbest thing possible. So the car like rocket jumps because you're doing like parkour with a car. So it's like, it sounds exactly like that. It's stupid.
And it was like the most fun you had, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah, that's great. I love it.
the music is also mouth sounds too. So it's got. It's
You're going to see an
ridiculous.
increase in sales now.
It's like,
Keep downloading now.
yeah, it's like $4 or something. Because I
Not
wanted
here.
to try multiplayer with it too. Because I wasn't going to go back to the Axis Unseen and be like, I'm going to go and make this giant open world game multiplayer versus cars and explosions. Like, that's pretty easy. Because we'll probably want to cut the recording now.
Yeah.
Because now we're going to do a sneak peek at what I'm up to next, which does have multiplayer.